Okay, so welcome to the last episode of Meta Design Basics. You see, a lot of people ask me questions on how to get better as a designer, right? And I want to answer some of those questions, not just how you can get better as a designer, but also how you can land a better job, how you can generally be happier, what's a good career progression, etc., etc. So, firstly, if you've just started out, my first suggestion to you and my most important suggestion to you would be to do a lot of Photoshop. Most experts got to where they are today because in their early days, they copied a lot of stuff. It's as simple as this. Watch this. Right? Just go to Dribble. Every day, just go to Dribble. Pick out one piece. Maybe it could be this piece. Right click, copy, put it into Photoshop, create a new document, put it into Photoshop, and just pull out the pen tool and just start copying. Right? This is what I would do if I were you. And try to aim to do at least 2 or 3 pieces a week. The more you do, the easier the tool gets, the more comfortable you get with the tool, the better your skill set. And the more you do, the more the tool absorbs you. Photoshop is one of those things where it's like a black hole. Once you get reasonably good at it, you start spending a lot of time at it. That's the only reason why I continue doing it, because after the first few weeks, it's just like, wow, this is amazing. I need to do a lot more of this, right? Spend a lot of that time with the tool. The next thing, which I think, could be problematic for a lot of you, and let me show you what that looks like, right? So if I saw this poster somewhere online and I said, hey, I want to copy this now, there's a question, right? Which most newbies would ask, which is, what is this? What do I call it, right? If I want to know how to do this, what am I supposed to Google? Right? And because if you know how to Google it, you can just go to YouTube or something and just look up a tutorial. For example, if I told you, hey, this is a glitch effect, then you'd be able to go to YouTube and look for the words glitch. But if you don't know what it's called, then you have no idea what to Google or look for on YouTube. And that's why I really think it's important that you work with a team, right? Because in design, what's happened, because there are so many different techniques, is that we've created nomenclature. And nomenclature stands for common words that everybody uses. For example, when I use the word flat design, everybody who's been doing design for at least a while knows what that is. Some images pop into their head. And that's the value of language, right? We all agree on certain words. And in design, this is an entirely new set of words. So make sure you pick up the lingo. And the best way to do that is in a team. But if you're not sure on how to do something, one of the main reasons I suggest you get a meta pass is that you'd be able to work with your mentors and other people in your team to be able to figure out what that problem is. So if you and maybe 3 of your teammates are working on something particular, try to work on the same piece. Just post on the group and say, look, hey guys, shall we do this piece today? And everybody says, okay, I figured out how to do this part, or I figured out how to do this part. And if you're all stuck, you can actually reach out to your mentor. That's the reason you get a meta pass, because you can reach out to your mentor and you'll be able to solve that problem fairly quickly, right? In fact, design is so visual that it's the reason I don't use a deck or I don't use slide decks to teach you. It would be stupid for me to just tell you, okay, here's the word, here's what we do. Instead, I went full visual and I showed you what I was doing, because there's no other way to learn design, right? While you're designing, even if you're copying other people's work in the beginning, make a profile. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't need your own website. You don't need any of that today. You just need either an Instagram or a Dribble or a Behance, and just everything that you create, just put it on there. Just replicate it and try to see if you can just flood that Instagram with as much custom work as you can, right? And even if it's copied work, it's fine. But over time, try to build your own stuff. If you're a designer and you've been designing or you've been putting up or you put up at least 200, 300 pieces of your own, I'd be much, much more likely to look at your profile than somebody else's profile with just 1 or 2 pieces on their portfolio. So try to get as many things on your portfolio as possible. And trust me, you will get better. It's just how Photoshop works. Just focus on that number, whether it's 100 a year or 200 a year or 300 a year, focus on that number and keep yourself accountable. Also, make sure you improve your communication skills. A lot of people think, you just need to be a fancy designer who can create amazing composites, create amazing, illustrations to get into a company like Facebook or Netflix or Airbnb. But the truth is, it's not that, right? Customers don't need all of that. So the company doesn't need that, right? your ability to communicate, your ability to do things on your own, your ability to work in a team, your ability to just be like, hey, I think this is what customers want. And you know what? Customers actually want a lot of simple, right? So get your basics right, learn how to communicate, not just in design lingo, but also in English or whatever language, your team works in. And the advantage of that is you're able to understand your consumer a little better. You understand that how typography should be placed, should work. So a lot of that is very important. And the only way you're going to improve on that segment is if you also get better at English and spoken and verbal and written English, right? So, sorry, spoken and written English. One more kind of suggestion I'd give you is don't buy into these hype cycles. There was a time when Apple came out with their new design, everybody started doing it. When flat design came out, everyone started doing it. When Web 2.0 came out, many, like almost a decade ago when I was still a kid, everybody started doing it. And every, Tom, Dick and Harry and expert in the industry said, this is how you should be doing design. You should do design like this. Please don't listen to them, right? These hype cycles keep coming in and coming out. At the end of the day, the reason I taught you a tool and not some sort of theory and said, hey, this is how colors match up is because I know that these cycles come in and come out. And when you know the tool, you can, adapt to any cycle that comes out if you need to. But more importantly, good design is good design regardless of what year you saw it in, right? A couple more tips. Let me just show you my screen, right? You can use something called Envato elements for a lot of stock footage, backgrounds. If you don't want to, recreate backgrounds, you can just, for example, I can just look for abstract background, for example, and I'd go to maybe these graphics and I can pick out some backgrounds, download them. It saves a lot of your time. You can use something called Photoshop brushes, right? So you can download some free Photoshop brushes, which makes your life a little easier. You want different stroke styles, you want smoke, you want clouds, you want all this dispersion stuff. You can use all of this. It's cool. It's just ways to speed up your time. And I want you guys to remember this. After maybe 1 year of design, the difference between somebody who's an absolute expert and somebody who's, intermediate is just the speed at which they do things. If given, and maybe the creativity. Because if given a particular piece, both people would be able to complete the piece. It's just one guy can do it much, much, much faster with much less Googling, much less shifting tabs, much less, there's a number of mistakes, right? So the only thing that improves over time is the speed at which you do things, right? After a year, until then you're still learning the basics, you're still getting a hang of the tool. So see what can improve your speed. Something like Envato Elements, it's like $9 or $19 a month or something like that. It's necessary for Avalon today with all the designers that we have. It just makes your life so much easier, right? And same with the Photoshop brushes, just makes your life a lot easier. And finally, my last tip to you would be to build a massive portfolio over time to work on as many different things as possible. And more importantly, to try and see the world from different ways. Because if you see the world from the view of medicine, or if you see the world from the view of being in traffic, or if you see the world in VR, all of this helps you become a better designer, right? Because as a designer, your job is to help other people see what's in your head, right? And the more you see, or the more content you consume, the better you are able to create, right? So put yourself in as many situations, try to get inspiration from everywhere, try to notice when you go out what billboards look like, try to notice the colors and the fonts in different places, try to look at bad design, try to categorize things into bad and good design, and then eventually you'll realize, it's very, very thin line. And for those of you that struggle with color, right? Some of you just don't know what colors go well with each other. I used to be one of those bricks back in the day. Here's a final tip for you, right? There is a website called Adobe Cooler. That's Kuler. You can just click on it and let's wait for this to load, right? And you can pick some fancy colors. You can just click on Explore, right? And you can find some nice colors to pick out, right? And all of these colors go well with each other, so you don't have to think about it. And it just gives you all the hex codes for it. You can just copy it with one click. Life becomes very easy when you already have a palette. And this is for people who don't know how to match colors together. For example, if you want the Superman theme, right, just type in Superman and, you could pick out maybe this, and you can just copy the colors, and you can make Superman icons or whatever you want to. So that is my final tip to you, and hopefully you become a better designer. The career prospects for a designer, my suggestion to you would be to either go into 3D and learn something like Cinema 4D, or go into front-end development and maybe design websites, go into web design. We have a web design course on the Meta platform. Many different branches for you to take. Or you could go into game design and level design and learn Unity or Unreal Engine, and the world is your oyster. Or you could end up becoming somebody like me and be an entrepreneur and learn things like math and physics, and just see that the entire world can be seen from the palette of design, right? And it's a wonderful place to be. It's a good skill to have in your arsenal, and it kind of makes you a more humble person. That's it for me for this series. Catch you on the next one.